You'll be able to get a close-up of me. I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
I'm gonna get out of the way.
Dorothy's getting out of the way, so I'll introduce my presentation this morning by asking a question. Is it possible to find humor and to laugh after more than a year of this horrible pandemic that has caused so much death and suffering and disruption to everyone's lives? Well, I'll give you the answer. The answer is yes. It is possible, and we must. Today is World Laughter Day. And my presentation this morning is about the spiritual power of laughter to provide comfort and healing by relieving stress. In case you haven't heard of World Laughter Day, and most people haven't, it happens on the first Sunday in May. It was created in 1995 by Dr. Madan Kataria, who's a physician in Mumbai, India. And he is the founder of the laughter yoga movement. Laughter yoga is simply getting together with some people and they start laughing together. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you go onto YouTube and check out some videos on there. But seeing others laugh is contagious, so everyone feeds off one another. And the scientific premise of this is your brain doesn't know if you're laughing spontaneously because of something humorous or if you're just faking it, which is what you do in laughter yoga. But your brain still responds in the same way it is programmed to respond when you laugh, releasing endorphins which lift your mood, make you feel better. And other effects of laughter can include reducing your blood pressure, boosting your immune system, and exercising your body. So laughter yoga is on hold during COVID. You know, we can't gather in groups, and because we are muted, we can't laugh together. However, when we return to our usual meeting place, let us pledge to fill the room with laughter. On Thursday, when we were celebrating our 65th anniversary on Zoom here, some of us remembered John Drage, who passed away some years ago. But John used to get up during Joys and Concerns and make us laugh by sharing a funny limerick or anecdote. World Laughter Day is now celebrated in more than 100 countries. Dr. Kataria wants it to be a positive manifestation for world peace that builds up a global consciousness of brotherhood and friendship through laughter. Dr. Kataria says, when you laugh, you change. And when you change, the world changes around you. So laughing is important during stressful times, and we would agree that this pandemic certainly fits the bill for stress. So this morning I'll touch on how laughter is essential to our mental and emotional health, as well as our physical well-being. I will share some anecdotes, and I'll include a very personal experience of the healing power of laughter. And I'll also introduce you to a very special guest a little later. Hopefully he gets here in time. So let me begin by saying that one lesson I learned early in life, and I hope you all did too, let's call it the first rule of a happy life. And that is to learn to laugh at yourself. Take life seriously by all means, but take yourself lightly. And if you can't laugh at yourself, just let me know and I'll do it for you. Now, let me tell you about our daily humor fix. Dorothy and I enjoy a daily humor hour each weekday afternoon between 1 and 2 o'clock. No, we don't look at each other and laugh at ourselves or each other, although that might be a healthy thing to do, but I don't think Dorothy's quite ready for laughter yoga yet, are you? She's not quite ready for laughter yoga. But I haven't been watching much television during COVID, but every weekday afternoon we sit down together to watch old reruns of the TV series MASH on channel 841, which is the Italian channel. But fortunately, MASH is still in the original English. Now, MASH was a long-running TV series back in the 70s about an American field hospital behind the front lines of the Korean War in the 1950s. MASH stands for Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. It's a comedy series, but it's also very much an anti-war series. It does not gloss over the tragedies of mostly very young men being killed and wounded. The purpose of MASH 4077 is to only do essential surgery on the wounded to save them from dying, and then they are transported to a major medical center for more specialist treatment. But the humor comes from the challenges faced on a daily basis by the doctors and nurses and others at the camp. We laugh at their sense of humor and witty remarks and the practical jokes they love to play on each other to relieve the unrelenting stress, the days of boredom alternating with days of absolute chaos, the monotonous food, and the very real homesickness they all experience. The camp's chaplain is Father Francis Mulcahy, played brilliantly by William Christopher. Now, last November, the guest speaker at my Kiwanis Club was Captain Michael McGee, who is a chaplain in the Canadian Armed Forces. And he shared with us at that time that his early understanding of what a military chaplain does came from watching MASH. Father Mulcahy was a Catholic priest, of course, but he made a point of ministering to all faiths. So just as a little aside, what do the three major Abrahamic religions say about humor? Well, in the Old Testament, in the book of Proverbs, it says this: a merry heart doeth good like medicine. A merry heart doeth good like medicine. So humor is therapy. And in the Jewish Talmud, there's this verse: by their merry talk, they cause sufferers to forget their grief. And in the Quran, the Prophet encourages followers to find joy in life, but warns that excessive laughter can kill the heart. Islam teaches that humor should not be cruel or demeaning to others, which is good advice. I don't know about killing the heart, but I know sometimes when I laugh really hard, I sometimes choke up. I'm sure those healthcare workers who are on the front lines of this pandemic struggle to keep their sanity in the face of unrelenting stress, sickness, and death that they face on a daily basis. When I worked at St. Joe's, the staff would look forward to the annual skit night when Dr. Brian Hines would bring his rock band to a local venue and the staff would compete in various silly skits. It was a night of music and much hilarity, a great stress reliever that everyone looked forward to. So everyone is affected to some degree by this pandemic. The past year has challenged us like never before to focus on what is most important to us. And what is first and foremost most important is taking care of ourselves and others. And so I would suggest that in order to truly care for others, our loved ones, our friends and neighbors, we need to make sure that we take care of ourselves so that we are physically, mentally, and emotionally capable of helping others. Another terrible war in which many Americans died was the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865. And in March, CNN had a documentary series on Abraham Lincoln, the president. And in one episode, it was described a day when the Union Army took very heavy losses on the battlefield. And that evening of that terrible day, Lincoln was greatly despondent and he retreated to his study. He went over to his bookshelf and took down a book. It was a book of humorous stories, and he began to read. Some of his cabinet members outside the study heard him chuckling, and they went in to see what was going on. And Lincoln said to them, and I quote, "We are under such a strain, and if I could not find a way to laugh, I would die." We all need a distraction or two when times are hard. Laughter is a powerful healing force. It soothes and refreshes the spirit when a heavy burden is hard to bear. To bring laughter into someone's day is a double blessing. If I could paraphrase William Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, a sense of humor is twice blessed. It blesses he who gives and he who receives. And with that quote in mind, I'd like to share a very personal experience with you now that happened 20 years ago at this fellowship. 20 years ago, Dorothy got a call from her sister in Northern Ireland to say that her husband had been a victim of a terrorist attack and was on life support in a Belfast hospital. Before they took him off life support, Dorothy's sister Joan and the family, Trevor was a husband and father of 2 children. The family gave the doctors permission to harvest his organs for donation. And so Dorothy went back to Belfast for the funeral, and unfortunately I wasn't able to go with her. It was a very busy time at the lab and we were short-staffed and I felt I couldn't take time off. So Dorothy traveled back to Northern Ireland for the funeral, and the following Sunday I came to our fellowship for our Sunday service. And I was feeling, of course, I was deep in grief and feeling very miserable. And after the service, Louisa Albers came up to me. And those of you who have been in the fellowship for some time will remember Louisa. She was one of our members from Port Huron. Louisa died in 2013 in her 90th year. But that day, Louisa came up to me after the service to offer some words of comfort and consolation. And I was not in the mood for a conversation, and she sensed how I was feeling. And now Louisa somehow found some words that caused me to spontaneously burst out laughing. It was a comment about Irish history that Louisa was very familiar with. And she found a way to make me spontaneously laugh. And I was shocked because laughter was the last thing on my mind. But when I laughed, I felt a terrible burden, a very heavy burden lift off my shoulders immediately. And I felt lighter. And I'll never forget that transformation that occurred. And it reminds me of a quote by Maya Angelou, the African-American poet Maya Angelou, who said these words: "People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel." I will never forget how Louisa helped me feel that day. Help me lift that burden from my back. As Dr. Kataria observed, when you laugh, you change. And when you change, the whole world changes around you. That is the healing and transformative power of humor. And when I meet with a family as a celebrant, I encourage them to share memories with me. And they talk and I listen. And it usually doesn't take long before they begin to smile and recall cherished memories. And often those memories will include some humor. And when they start to laugh and smile, they begin to lighten their grief. And I'm a witness to the transformation that is taking place. Loved ones leave us their memories. They live on in our hearts. And remembering a loved one with a smile is indeed a wonderful way to remember someone. And maybe that's what immortality is. The little pieces of another that we carry in our hearts and minds. Loving memories that we can pass on to others for as long as we live. So now I promised I had a special guest to introduce to you. So I'm just going to see if they've arrived. I'll just mute myself. I'll comfortable. All right, I'll turn the video back on. Hello, Unitarian people. Thank you for letting me join you this Sunday morning. I am Nosy the Clown, but I'm not your typical clown. I am what's known as a therapeutic clown. I graduated from the program at George Brown College in Toronto. It was established 3 years ago and is the first such program in North America and only the second in the world. So you'll see I don't have any scary face paint, just a little red nose and a funny wig. The red nose, we don't want to scare our patients, so we don't have any face paint, but the red nose sends a message that play is about to happen. Those of us who are therapeutic clowns can find ourselves in a variety of healthcare settings. We serve children and adults of all ages, and we usually work in pairs. We love to help children become more relaxed and comfortable during medical procedures. It helps when we distract them and make them laugh, and it makes the doctor's job easier too. You know, we clowns, we can't treat a broken bone, we can't prescribe drugs, but we can work with the healthcare team and with the patient to encourage the body to heal itself in some very special ways. So we're trained to understand the various clinical settings and how best to interact. Our job is to listen to the patients and to make them feel heard and to make them feel in control. And also, of course, to make them feel joy and happiness and love. We sing, we play ukulele, and very importantly, we use touch. A lot of patients are only touched when they undergo medical procedures. And so we hold patients' hands and we touch their faces. And when we leave them, we always ask if it's okay to come back. And we've never had anyone say no. And we also never enter a patient's room without asking permission. And one of my regrets during COVID is that, you know, we couldn't go into the long-term care homes where people were alone and dying alone. We couldn't hold their hands or touch a face. And that's a terrible tragedy. And as a society, we must all pledge that that never happens again. Now, I know you have a wonderful hospice in Sarnia here, but I want to tell you about the hospice in Windsor. There's a very enlightened physician in Windsor called Dr. Charmaine Jones. And one day before COVID, Dr. Jones asked one of my female colleagues to visit a patient in the hospice. And this was a patient who was just a couple of days away from dying. There were family members in the patient's room, and my friend was very apprehensive. And she said to the doctor, "Should I be quiet?" And Dr. Jones said, "No. If they say it's okay to come in, then go in and be as loud as you can." So I did. I went in, or she did. She went into the patient's room and started to do backflips. And soon the room was vibrating with laughter. The walls were vibrating. In a room of sadness and compassion and love, there suddenly was also surprise, joy, and laughter. It was transformative. In a situation where you least expect it, humor can bring instant relief from grief and suffering. That is the transformative power when we connect with others through playful humor. That is the spirituality of humor. It's a beautiful gift. When my clown persona connects with someone in a meaningful way, when I listen to their fears, when I show empathy, when I make them smile or laugh, when I show them I care, when I bring them joy and laughter. Yes, that means my patient is blessed, and also that I am blessed too. It enriches both our hearts and spirits. And if you can't find a way to make someone laugh, then offer them a smile. It's so easy to do, and a smile always increases your face value. George Bernard Shaw once said, "We do not cease to play because we grow old. We grow old because we cease to play." So today and every day, commit to taking in some of the humor vitamin H, because it keeps your funny bone in great shape. And remember, a sense of humor is twice blessed. It blesses she who gives and she who receives. Amen. Blessed be.
Thank you, Allan.